You guys good? Ready for more? Oh, come on. I know you are. This is language. It's so much fun. So really quickly, because this is, I feel like, because we're learning a newer concept today, which I'm excited about because it's always fun. So I don't want to take too long intro wise because I want to go over our answers from yesterday's thumbs up, thumbs down challenge that we had, and then go into our new concept, which I have to do a few things with that. So we did our comparing adjectives yesterday, and we had our thumbs up, thumbs down challenge. So I'm going to read those again. We didn't go through the answers because I wanted you to answer them. Now we're going to say what the right answers should have been. That yellow butterfly is larger than the blue one. That would have been a thumbs up because comparing two things, we use the ER ending, larger, okay? Of the two girls, Jessie is fastest. That good should have been a thumbs down because it's two. If you're comparing two, do you use EST? No, you have to use ER. Two. Oh, okay, that two, ER. And three, EST. I see, sometimes it takes me a while, but that'll be helpful maybe for you. ER, 2, EST, 3 or more. Okay? 3 letters at the end, then 3 or more things you're comparing. 2 letters at the end, 2 things you're comparing. How cool is that? Oh, okay. I thought, whatever. I thought it was cool. Okay, so of the two, Jessie is faster, not fastest. 2 ER, 3 EST. Joshua is the tallest in our class. So if we're comparing our whole class, that's 3 or more, he is the tallest. Very good. Those cookies are yummy. Yep, that's a thumbs up. It's yummy. Okay. The peanut butter cookie is yummier than the sugar cookie. Now, it's not true, but it would be a thumbs up because 1, 2 compared, and ER when you have that comparison. The chocolate chip cookies are the yummy cookies of all the cookies. That doesn't even sound right, right? So we're of all the cookies, which are definitely more than 3, we're going to say the chocolate chip cookies are the yummiest cookies of all the cookies. Okay, so I just wanted to go through that with you to make sure that we remembered and understood. And then that cool thing, that cool idea. Huh, who knew? Okay, so the other thing I wanted to review really quickly is our parts of speech. We've been learning them and knowing what they are. So our noun is the name of a person, place, or thing. So stop the video right now and sing your noun song. I don't have time to sing it, but sing it for your parents. You know, if you ever wonder what a noun can be, yep, that one. Okay, go ahead. All right, then we also learned our verb. Our verbs are words that usually do what? Show action, right? They usually show action, but there are some of them that are non-action verbs. They're being, remember our action Adam and being Ben. So our being verbs, am, is, are, was, were. Okay, they're just, you know, Ben is on the board. We are looking at him. He was there, but now he is not. Okay, am, is, are, was, or were. And then we had our helping verbs. Am, is, are, was, were, have, has, had. Remember those? So those are the verbs. They're words that are action or state of being, something like that, okay? Action or non-action verbs. And then we talked about our adjectives. An adjective is a word that describes a noun. Very good. And don't forget that we have adjectives that are beautiful descriptions that answer what 4 questions? Which one, what kind, how many, and whose. Which one, what kind, how many, or whose. Again, which one, what kind, how many, or whose. Those are the 4 questions that you're going to ask your nouns. Every noun in that sentence, you need to ask, which one, what kind, how many, whose. Oh, okay. But also 3 words that are always adjectives. A and the, a and the. Don't forget a and the, okay? A, and the are always, 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 always adjectives. Don't forget them. Then yesterday we talked, and the day before we talked about comparing our adjectives. We learned that just like we were talking about earlier, ER and EST, okay? But also we learned yesterday when we have longer words like wonderful, beautiful, unusual, we're not going to say unusualer, unusualest. That is the unusualest thing I've ever seen. No, the most unusual, the most beautiful, more wonderful. Okay, we would put more or most in front of those. So think, remember, keep those things in your mind, because as we start to learn new parts of speech, I want to make sure you remember all the ones that we've learned, because you're going to have to start to recognize and learn all of them in a sentence. So be aware of that. Really quickly, I'm going to read some sentences. Either if it's an action verb, you're going to act it out. If it is a being verb, a non-action verb, then you're just going to say it. Okay, so if it's some action that you can do, I want you to do it. If it's not, then just say the word. The small wrinkled dog sat by its dish. Good, sat. That's the correct thing. It's an action verb. We saw a comet last night. Yes, good. Saw. You can see something. My piano books are on the piano bench. Are. Good. You can't do anything. They just are. I jumped when I saw the spider. Yes, good. Some of you did it. I saw you. Yes. I wondered if anybody would catch it. I jumped when I saw the spider. So there's two verbs in that sentence. Good job. Dad was tired last night. Good. Was. He just was. Okay. There's no action there. It's just he was. Okay. Very, very good. So that's important that you remember those verbs, because what we're learning today is something that is called an adverb. And an adverb is a word that usually describes a verb. So an adverb is a word that usually describes a verb. Say it. An adverb is a word that usually describes a verb. Just like adjectives describe nouns, our adverbs describe verbs. So we know that there are questions that our adjectives asked. Like we talked about, what kind of banana? A yellow banana. Which one? Which noun? That banana. Whose noun? It's going to answer the question whose. My banana. It answers the question how many. 3 bananas. Okay, so remember, adjectives answer those 4 questions. Well, when we're talking about our adverbs have questions as well. We're going to talk about one of those questions today. But before we get to that, we have to do our adverb song. I'm going to have to teach. I can't not teach you the adverb song. So there's a song that goes with adverbs that we're going to learn. I'll sing it in a few videos to start so that you can start learning it and singing it with me. But play it over a couple times and then you can sing it on the next video with me. But it's a fun little song that will help you hopefully understand adverbs. And it goes like this. How, when, where, or how much. How, when, where, or how much. How did she sing? She sang rather badly. When did she sing? She sang very often. Where did she sing? She sang everywhere. How much did she sing? Too much. How did he work? He worked rather slowly. When did he work? He worked very seldom. Where did he work? He worked here and there. How much did he work? Not enough. You can recognize an adverb if you really try. It will help you if you'll notice that they often end in ly. How did he look? He looked very carefully. When did he look? He looked quite continuously. Where did he look? He looked everywhere. How sad did he feel? Indescribably. And so remember, this was a whole play, Traces of the Lost Parts of Speech, that he's trying to find his glasses, and that's why it asks at the end, how sad did he feel? Because he still couldn't find his glasses. He's been looking everywhere. So adverb is a word that describes a verb. Don't say noun. I know we're so used to saying noun. It's a word that describes a verb, okay? So look at our sentence that we have on the board. It says, Mrs. Lee carefully stepped over the puddle. Now, what we've normally been doing in all of our sentences is looking for our verbs. We always like to find that verb. So as we look through this sentence, we've just been talking and reviewing our verbs. Mrs. Lee carefully stepped over the puddle. What is the verb? What is the action in that sentence? It is stepped. Very good. She stepped. And now, just like with our adjectives, we're going to ask the question, how? That was the first question in our song. Remember, how, when, where, or how much? How is our first question. How did Mrs. Lee step? Yes, and if you see that, remember we said it may help you if you'll notice that they often end in ly. Not all the time, but often they end in ly. So Mrs. Lee carefully stepped over the puddle. So we will circle carefully and draw an arrow from carefully to stepped to show that carefully is describing stepped. Okay, so we draw an arrow from our adverb to our verb. Do we understand that? So stepped, we look for our verb. That's all that you have to do right now. You don't have to look for nouns and all of that and subjects. All you're doing is looking for your noun. When you find that noun, then you are going to, or that verb, excuse me, then you're going to ask how to the verb. That's the only question you have to ask today. I know I moved it back out. I don't know, maybe if I move it down, if that, I can, okay, now I can close up again. Okay. So now the second sentence is Laura spoke quietly to Mom. And when we look at that sentence, all we're looking for right now is finding our verb. That's what we are going to look for first. So spoke, you can speak, okay? It's something you can do. So underline spoke twice. We underline our verbs twice. And what question are we asking today? How, okay? We're asking how. Spoke how? How did she speak to Mom? Right, she spoke quietly. And there's that ly again. Circle your adverb, draw a small arrow back to the verb. So circle the adverb, draw a small arrow back to the verb, just like we were circling the adjectives and drawing an arrow back to the noun that it describes. Now you're going to circle the adverbs and circle what verb it is describing. That spoke how? Quietly. Stepped how? Carefully. So adverbs can be before or after in a sentence. They don't have to be in a specific spot. So it could be before the verb or it could be after the verb. But they're both describing our verbs, okay? And that's important. So take out really quickly page 156. Take out page 156. And look at the box at the top. An adverb is a word that describes a verb. Say it. An adverb is a word that describes a verb. An adverb is a word that describes a verb. Some adverbs tell how the action of the verb was done. When I saw the spider on my foot, I yelled loudly. How did I yell? Loudly. Okay, just like we said, how did she sing? She sang rather badly. Okay. How did he work? He worked very slowly. Okay. How did he look? He looked very carefully. So how is answering those verbs. In the sentence, look for words that tell how the action was done. Dad drove carefully. Okay. carefully, Dad drove. We're still figuring out drove is the word, and how did Dad drive? Carefully. Whether it's at the beginning of the sentence, at the end of the sentence, in the middle of the sentence, you look at the action and ask how that action took place, how it happened, okay? So think A, look at the verb and circle the adverb that tells how the action was done. Draw a small arrow from each adverb you circle to the verb it describes. So the adverb could be anywhere in that sentence. So you look for the verb, ask how, and find where that is, that answer is. Okay, and many times it's going to end in ly, but not always. So looking carefully. Look closely at the underneath that. So they did number 1 for you in Think A, but then you're going to do 2 through 5. Go down to look closely again, the next box. Many adverbs end in the suffix ly. If a root word ends in y, change the y to I before adding your ly. Okay, so happy. You're not going to write happily. Okay, if the root word ends in y, like happy does, then you are going to change that y to an I, H-A-P-P-I. Then add your ly at the end. Okay, does that make sense? So you have to think if it's a word like easy or well, I guess they're going to do that with hungry or angry. You are going to change the y to an I before you add your ly. Okay, so there are simple things to think through, but you have to look. If my word ends in y, it's not hungry, y-ly. That doesn't make sense. It's hungrily, G-R-I-L-Y. That's going to help you with spelling as well. Then down for Think C, think about the question how. And now you are writing your own adverb for a verb that tells how that action might be done. How did they run and eat and stop and whisper? Okay, so I want you to be very creative and think how for each of those verbs. And I can't wait to see some of the answers that you come up with in your creative minds. And hopefully you got that. We'll review it some more. No worries if you're not quite getting it. We'll keep reviewing it. Plus there's other questions that we're going to be learning how to ask for our adverbs. An adverb is what? A word that describes a verb. All right. That was fun, right? That was fun. Oh, come on. It's great. All right. I'll see you in the next video, guys.